Welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because, well, we're looking at something that literally makes or breaks modern businesses. We are unpacking this incredibly vital intelligence report on the top 25 e-commerce cybersecurity companies for 2026. Now, if you're a business decision maker, you already know security is no longer just an IT problem, right? It's a fundamental bottom line issue. So today, we're going to translate all this heavy technical data into a clear, actionable executive briefing. We'll show you exactly what's at stake and how you can protect your entire e-commerce operation.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today: the hidden threat, anatomy of a breach, evaluating partners, the top 25 providers, and finally, an essential checklist. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the hidden e-commerce threat.
So we need to shatter a really common illusion right out of the gate. A lot of founders and executives kind of assume that just because they're hosted on a major platform, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, that their business is just automatically bulletproof. But as this intelligence report shows, storefront security, that's really just a tiny piece of the puzzle. Just take a look at this number: 43%. That is the chunk of all cyber attacks that specifically targets small to mid-sized online stores. You see, hackers know that the massive megacorporations have armies of security folks, so they pivot. They target scaling e-commerce brands instead. To them, it's a high-value, low-effort target. You're processing payment data, you're relying on dozens of integrated software tools, and often you're doing it without dedicated security personnel watching the radar.
And hey, if you think a breach is just a temporary hiccup, a little bump in the road, consider this: 60% of these breached online stores actually close their doors for good within 6 months. I mean, that is an existential threat. When a breach happens, you aren't just losing some data. You're losing your customers' trust, you're dealing with massive regulatory fines, and you're suffering from operational downtime that most scaling businesses simply cannot survive.
To put a hard dollar figure on it, the average cost of a data breach is sitting right at $4.88 million. Now, compare that multi-million-dollar disaster to a proactive security budget for a high-growth brand, which typically runs, somewhere between $50,000 and $200,000 a year. The return on investment for proper security becomes incredibly clear when the alternative is a literal $5 million catastrophe. Moving on to Section 2, anatomy of a breach. To really understand this, we have to look at what I like to call the iceberg model. What you see up there on the surface, your beautiful, perfectly functioning website, is just the tip. It's the massive operational structure beneath the waterline that can actually sink you. Just imagine this real-world nightmare scenario from the report. You wake up on a random Tuesday. Your Stripe dashboard is suddenly showing thousands of chargebacks. Your site is flagged as dangerous on Google Chrome. Your Facebook and TikTok ads, they're still burning through millions in ad spend, but your checkout is completely broken. Customer support is overwhelmed, your dev team is just shrugging because they don't know what happened, and your brand is bleeding cash. And the scariest part, it all happened entirely overnight. So I have to ask you, and be honest here, have you thought about that vector of attack? Most of us just secure the front door, right? The website login. But attackers don't always use the front door. They'll bypass the website entirely to hit the broader business ecosystem. In fact, the report highlights over 18 categories of security controls that are typically missing from e-commerce businesses. Think about your domain registrar for a second. If a hacker gets in there, they control your DNS records, which means they control your emails and your store. Think about your email management, like Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, or even your outsourced social media agencies. If your ad agency is using shared logins without multi-factor authentication to run your meta ads, a hacker can just hijack that account, redirect your ad budget, and utterly destroy your campaigns. And what about your SaaS integrations, Klaviyo, HR software, QuickBooks? These external accounts can entirely sink the brand if they get compromised. All right, let's look at Section 3, evaluating cybersecurity partners. Finding the right partner isn't just some technical checkbox, it is a critical survival move in a really complex vendor landscape. And this brilliantly illustrates what to look out for. On the left, we've got the red flags. You absolutely want to avoid generalist IT firms that lack online retail knowledge. If they have no PCI DSS experience, which by the way is the absolute gold standard for payment card security, or if they can't handle bot mitigation, you need to run the other way. Now, on the right side are green flags. Elite e-commerce security partners are going to offer specific threat modeling for platforms like Shopify and Magento. They provide 24/7 breach response, and they're platform agnostic, meaning they'll secure your business no matter what tech stack you happen to be using. And now for the main event, Section 4, the top 25 provider landscape. So this is the 2026 ranking, and it's perfectly tailored for platforms like Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, and headless commerce stacks. Looking at just the top 5 here really highlights how different companies solve entirely different parts of the e-commerce puzzle. Ranked at number 1, we've got Atlant Security. They're celebrated as a true business enabler, specializing in security audits, virtual CISO services, and deep PCI DSS compliance. Coming in at number 2 is SIF Security, absolute masters of digital trust and fraud prevention. Number 3, Human. They focus strictly on bot mitigation and keeping accounts protected. And then rounding out the top 5, we have heavyweights like Cloudflare and Akamai, providing that essential infrastructure defense, stuff like content delivery networks, web application firewalls, and massive DDoS protection. The rest of the top 25 includes some truly incredible firms like Security Scorecard, Imperva, and Darktrace, offering just a huge spectrum of capabilities. We're talking about advanced web application firewalls to block malicious traffic, threat intelligence to basically monitor the dark web for your data, managed security operations centers for advanced detection, and AI-driven fraud prevention. But ultimately, every single one of these capabilities serves one overarching business outcome: keeping your checkout running and your brand's reputation perfectly intact. Now, one term that popped up a moment ago with Atlant Security was a VCISO, or Virtual Chief Information Security Officer. If you have a scaling brand with, say, 15 to 100 plus employees, this is the perfect ROI-driven fit for you. Look, a full-time CISO typically costs somewhere between $200,000 and $400,000 a year. A virtual CISO gives you that exact same executive-level security leadership, someone to actually build your roadmap, handle the vendor management, and ensure compliance, but at an absolute fraction of the cost. It's a real game changer. Let's bring it home with Section 5, Essential Platform Security Checklist. This section is all about equipping you with immediate, actionable next steps. So the crucial point is implementing these foundational controls. Let's look at these 4 main categories. First, for access management, you absolutely must enforce multi-factor authentication and single sign-on across all your accounts. For payment security, ensure you've got PCI DSS compliance and tokenization dialed in. For infrastructure, you need that web application firewall and DNS security. And finally, for your SaaS and third-party tools, you have got to be auditing your plugins and securing your APIs. Seriously, this isn't just IT busy work. This checklist is exactly how you translate technical controls into a literal bulletproof vest for your business revenue. I want to leave you with this final, highly provocative question from the source material. Your website is secure, but is your business? Protecting the storefront just isn't enough when your domain registrar, your email systems, and your social media agencies are all sitting out there fully exposed. It is time to take holistic action on your security posture before a breach forces your hand. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and I highly recommend using this intelligence to start hardening your business right away.